no longer a game development studio, which is leading to massive layoffs. Campaign DLC completely suspended and canceled due to no financial incentives. Man, do we have a lot to talk about. Okay, so some of this information is just coming out today, and as I had a video yesterday, I just wanted to update. Sorry about all the audio issues, so hopefully this time it shouldn't have a problem. But back to the information dump at hand. This is coming out from Bathrobe Spartan on Twitter. So we can take some of this information with a grain of salt, but I think we can kind of put everything two and two together and realize what's going down. Okay, so 343 just had a bunch of massive layoffs, and this is due to Microsoft also doing the massive layoffs in preparation, which could be either a recession, but Microsoft also did hire 40,000 people last year, and so knocking off 10,000 isn't really the biggest ordeal. It's just kind of cutting trim. Now with 343 though, 343 is actually laying off a substantial amount of staff. Now with that being said, they did say that Halo is still going to be somewhat updated and taken care of, but this is due in part to all the third-party studios they outsourced to. They probably contracted them for several years, so they kind of have to update the game. For right now, maps and content is going to be done by Spirasoft, the modes and elements is going to be done by Certain Affinity, and Forge is obviously being taken care of by Skybox Labs. I still think trying to piece a game together like a puzzle piece is probably not the best outlook, and it obviously has shown zero success with this franchise given the player count and all the other financial decisions and things like monetization schemes that they've had to push into this game. Clearly they're hurting for the player base. But now moving on to Campaign. So Campaign looks like Mr. Staten was trying to work out different plans with different teams, and he had his idea was to do several short DLCs, which would lead to a major expansion through a new campaign within it. And then the other thing that he was going to do is he was going to try to get some new management in there and try to get some creative assessment of the campaign and single-player narrative lead offered by Halo Infinite, and this was due to the following departure of Bonnie Ross. But unfortunately, this didn't take over, and they ended up just saying that they're only going to take care of the multiplayer portion, and this was due to the single-player narrative content has proven difficult to produce in recent years, which, I don't know, I would say that it probably is difficult from a dev perspective, but these type of feature sets and things like that, especially when you're going for a free-to-play model and you're trying to garnish a lot of that player financial incentives, because people don't realize is like these free-to-play games actually make more money than the pay-to-play games, and so it's like if you have the financial incentive on one end, you would think you would take care of both parties to make this like seamlessly good game. It's almost like they're just looking at the financials of it. They also said that it doesn't offer a strong player retention and it doesn't allow for viable monetization for the studio. Again, going back to driving that point, it looks like they're only looking financial incentives. In fact, Marty O'Donnell, back in an interview I remember listening to, I think it was with the Act Man or with some other people, he talked about how Forge mode wouldn't have been in Halo 3 if the team wasn't so strongly about having these features in there that were just fun to the player, even though it didn't drive financial incentive, and at the time they didn't think it was going to drive any player retention. They still made these features because they were passionate about it and because they wanted to make a good product. They weren't looking at only the money making angle of it, which is what 343 seems to be doing, especially since they are obviously hired by Microsoft to do so. And so the decision is to not continue the production of a narrative single-player content for Halo Infinite or for Halo Infinite in general at this time. Now heading back to the layoffs, they said it's resulting to several factors, and the first one is being Microsoft's overall preparation for a possible recession, the studio's high operating costs for not meeting financial goals, multiplayer-focused strategy for the future of Halo Infinite. We know why that is, because they're hiring all these third-party contractors to do all the work anyway, and they're probably on these contracted time, and so they're already signed up to do it. 343 Industries will not disappear, but the game development part of the studio will. Thus, the projects of the future of the studio lie in 2-point strategies: coordinating Halo Infinite follow-up and to give the Halo license to other studios. And let's be honest, guys, these were the rumors that we all thought were true anyway back in the day. A lot of people talked about it, but it got downvoted and people didn't want to, they didn't want to talk about these different, just give it to a different studio and this, that, and the other. But now we do actually officially know that these and again, you can go to their websites. You can go to Spirasoft website, Certain Affinity's website, all these different websites. You can check about what they do. And I think for the longest time, especially with 5, Halo 5 is one of the primary ones that Skybox Labs worked on for Forge. Everybody kind of knew that Forge mode was being done by a third-party source, and that was okay. That's a big portion of the game. It's so large now. It's okay to think like, well, you know, as long as a company dedicated to it, and Skybox Labs is renowned for being a very good company, and they've done a very good job with Halo 5 Forge, and they've done an excellent job with Halo Infinite Forge, as far as I've been told. The problem is the game is not good in general. There's so many problems with the game, other than it being buggy or just a complete mess. There's so many things with weapon balance and weapon choices and limited content and map choices and the physics engine, and all of it is just not good. It doesn't make for a good game. You know, people do enjoy it, and I understand that, but it's just, there would be that player base there if it was a good game, and it's just not. They've tried to follow too many trends into the Call of Duty area, and that's been the case since basically Halo Reach, and that's kind of where I said in my last video where it went downhill is from Reach. Now granted, I did like that they tried to do something different, and it at least played fun. You know, these recent Halos 4, 5, and Infinite don't play fun. Some people might find them fun, you know, but we can even go back to Halo 5 that had like a whole loot box system and pay to win system within that whole little war camp thing where you could open up card packs and they would give you weapons and vehicles, and granted it was only for the Warzone mode or whatever it was called, but still it just shows the kind of philosophy they have around the game in general, that it's just a money sink for them and just a money pit, and it looks like it's not playing out. They said given the financial expectations that Halo Infinite failed to meet, and this is another thing that they talked about, is that Halo actually didn't meet their financial expectations. So even though they threw all of these microtransaction schemes at you, they threw a battle pass at you, a pay-to-play campaign, they threw all of these skins on the store, they made you pay for everything, basically anything that you wanted. They made you buy Reach armor, they made you pay for the color blue, they made you pay for all these different things, and they still didn't meet their financial expectations for the game. And what does that tell you? It's basically telling you that they knew that this game was not going to be good, they knew that they were rushing out a product, they knew that they were paying all these third-party companies and cutting corners and cost-cutting just so that they could get their contracts done and all line the pockets of the CEOs and all these upper management people. You know, people start like, oh, upper management's upper management fault. The upper management don't care about the game. It's not their, it is their fault, but they don't care. They're just there for the paycheck, and it very clearly shows that, because these are corporate individuals. And again, you could make the argument, we can go all deep dive into capitalism and all that stuff. We don't have to do that, but it's just a lot of times, even though these game studios are made to make money, they still should have some sort of passionate backing to it all, so where their artistic philosophy goes around that. You know, if they're just trying to be a CEO or an upper management for a company, why don't they just go work for like a typical, like, just whatever company? Why are they working for an art-oriented company? Go work for go be an upper management for Menards or something, or Home Depot. You know, they don't need to. That's not where, if they don't have that artistic value in this, then why are they being an upper management for a game studio? It doesn't ring well. So anyways, we won't go too far into that. I figure I'd give my thoughts here at the end, but as you know, this is some big information dump, and it's pretty much what everybody thought back in the day, but was either silenced for, or downvoted, or banned. People couldn't talk about it in the Discord. There was so many things back then. But anyways, guys, if you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and until the next one,